Okay, very important point. So let's imagine we've signed one of these documents, or not signed one of these documents, but we're now ready to go ahead to the transfer of the ownership of the property. How does that work?
Okay. We are making an application to the land registry. The seller has to be in the presence, and the buyer's document has to be ready and collected. And when we are saying, talking about the documents, they are not really complicated. Just the original IDs of the parties, photographs of the parties are required, and a minimum market value, which is defined by the municipality. We need a document from the relevant council with a stamped document saying that this property's minimum value is this and that, and you can't really declare less than that when you make the purchase.
So let's just take those in turn. Identity documents for the sellers, for the buyers, that's fairly straightforward. Photographs, again, fairly straightforward. This minimum value document. So this is the tax value, the official value of the property.
Yeah.
And when you sign a document transferring that property into your name, you cannot pay tax. You cannot value it at less than that value.
Actually, you can, but you cannot pay tax less than that.
So
you were right.
Even if you valued it at 1,000 lira, if the official value is 100,000 lira, you will still pay tax on 100,000
Correct.
lira.
And if you declare less than the minimum value, then the tax officers will be really suspicious about that transaction and will investigate the transfer.
And it's important to say, isn't it, that the tax value is usually actually considerably lower than the real value.
Exactly, it's like that.
So it's more likely that the tax value is 100,000 lira and you might be paying 250,000 lira for
Maybe
the property.
more than that.
And so, or more. And if you declare more in the title deed, then you will pay tax on the bigger value.
Exactly. The tax value, we are talking about the transfer tax here. It is a percentage of the declaration value.
Yes.
So whatever you declare, you will be paying from that amount, but subject to a minimum of municipality market value.
Which I think takes us very neatly to the Turkish habit of under-declaration.
Yes.
Now, it's fair to say, isn't it, that the under-declaration problem, where somebody pays 1 million lira for a property, but in the title deed only puts 500,000 lira, that problem is less acute now than it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, because we now have mortgage, and if you are using a mortgage, basically you have to declare at least the mortgage amount as a value.
Because the bank will only lend you a percentage of the declared value, not whatever you've actually paid.
Actually, the banks are not really involved. It's a bit surprising because we were assuming that they will be interfering this, but they don't. Even you are lending like a 400,000 Turkish lira from the bank, you can still declare 200,000. Yes, but
how weird.
It's weird because the banks, I think, just being lazy about that. But in that case, you will definitely caught by the tax officers.
The taxman's going to say, hey, hang on.
Hey, and within 5 years' time, normally they do it at the last year, and you will be fined.
Yes. Okay. So you don't want to do this.
No.
Right. Now, but it is still common for there to be under-declaration.
Unfortunately, yes.
And I guess the question we have to ask is that dangerous? Should you do it? So just explain why it is that the seller wants to under-declare the value.
If a seller is individual, and if the individual purchased that property 2 years ago, if they are subject to capital gains tax, and if they declared less than what they are now selling, so they want to avoid the capital gains tax. This could be the first reason.
Yes.
The second reason, the percentage of transfer tax. Both parties might be willing to pay less than what is normally costing. The third option...
So hang on a second. So, yes, so when you buy and sell a property, there is a property transfer tax payable, and that's paid on the declared value.
Correct.
So obviously if you declare half the value, you only pay half the tax, and the tax is normally shared equally between the buyer and seller.
That is correct.
So the seller's got a vested interest in keeping that as low as possible.
That's correct, but that's purely tax amnesty. I have to just stress out this. The third option, I think this is the very tough situation that you can change the declaration value. If you are purchasing from a developer, they have a registered cost for that individual unit. So whatever they declare more than that cost, they will be paying corporate tax, VAT,
Yes.
blah blah blah. So so they are very reluctant to declare more than 20 or 30% of their like a cost calculation.
Yes.
And unfortunately, this is also affecting their whole development. Let's imagine they have 50 units and they are more or less declaring the same in all individual units. So if someone agreed to underdeclare, then it started like that. So you cannot really ask like a doubling the price in the same year.
Because if there are 50 identical units and they've all sold for 300,000 lira and you pay 1 million,
Yeah.
then the tax office is going to say, what's going on here?
Yeah, and they will be in a huge trouble. As an individual purchaser, you will be just facing the trouble of making the payment for transfer tax.
And of course, the other problem that arises is where the person who's selling you the property only declared 10% of its value. So he paid 1 million and put in 100,000. If he now sells for 1 million, or if he sells for 1.5 million, he's going to pay a huge amount of capital gains tax on a gain that he didn't actually make.
Yeah, this is an artificial profit,
Yes.
basically, because when they are not really careful about their first purchasing price, and if they sell within the 5 years, because after 5 years in Turkey we have an exemption.
Yeah.
So the capital gains tax really huge, and also in your back home, because you will be carrying the liability in there. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, okay, so you can understand why it is the seller wants to declare less than the true value. Should the buyer accept that and say, this isn't a good thing, but it's the reality here in Turkey, I'm going to have to go some way towards it, or should they insist on declaring the full value?
As a lawyer, I definitely have to say I think they shouldn't accept, because this is a tax amnesty and you will be facing fine in the future.
Because it is illegal. to underdeclare the
Exactly
value.
illegal.
And if you are caught in whatever way, then there will be penalties, there will be fines.
Yeah, so this is a risk, this is the own risk of the client.
Yes.
So we always advise them to declare the actual figure. So, and we will just let them know about the outcome if they don't. So if they are happy to do that, obviously we can't just stop them.
And people have to remember, think about their position back home as well, because I can remember I had a judge one time who was buying a property and the seller wanted to declare only a small fraction of the value. And I said, Judge, you cannot do this. If you get caught doing this, you're going to lose your job. You know, this is a criminal offence that you're committing.
It is. It's a tax fraud. Yeah.
So, I guess the message to people is: do not just drift into this idea of under-declaring.
Yeah.
But in the real world, they may have little choice if they want to buy that particular property.
I think it depends on the how much is going to be under-declared.
Yes.
So, in some cases, it could be under-declared because some part of the price might be the furniture.
Yes, exactly. But that's perfectly legitimate.
It's perfectly legitimate.
Or it could be that it's a new house, you're paying 1 million for the house and another 200,000 for the gardening to be finished, for example.
Yeah.
There are certain semi-legitimate ways of doing
Exactly.
this. Yes. But if you go too far, it is illegal.
It is illegal, and you may not be happy to face that problem in the future.
Well, and also I think it's worth remembering, isn't it, that this has got less and less as the years have gone by. If you sell this property in, say, 4 or 5 years' time, then it is likely that you will not be able to underdeclare when you sell the property.
Exactly. Then you will be in the part of the story of artificial profits.
And you'll be paying tax on a profit you haven't made, not only here in Turkey, but also back in your own country.
Back in your own country.
So this is, I think, a big issue for buyers and something they have to face up to. But the truth is, in many cases, they will be under intense pressure to underdeclare. And in some cases, they may have to go some way towards it, even if there's some sort of veil of modesty which says, well, okay, well, this is for the furniture, so I can justify that.
Yeah, and I just need to make this comment, because if you ask a Turkish friend if the underdeclaration is okay, he might even say this is legal because everyone is doing that because they don't know it, or
Yes.
the agents. They may just try to convince you this is legal, but this is not legal. This is just a bad habit.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's dealt with under-declaration, and it is not, of course, just in Turkey. It's common in many, many countries, but Turkey is a particularly good example of it.